Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Red Cloud webinar. I am Nicole Sienna, the head of media for Red Cloud Financial Services, and I'm going to moderate today's webinar. I'm here with the lovely Ken Macleod, President, CEO, and Director, and John Darch, the Chairman and Director of Sonoro Gold. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you, Nicole. Pleasure talking to you.
So we're going to get things started in just a second. To the entire live audience, I just want to send a reminder. We do have a chat function at the bottom of your screen. So as we go through today's presentation, please feel free to drop in your comments and your questions. As soon as the guys here are done with their presentation, we'll take a brief pause and do a little Q&A session with everybody. So all of that being said, I'm going to turn off my camera and let you two take the stage.
Thank you very much, Nicole, and welcome to the Red Cloud webinar. We've met many of you before over the past year or two, and so I'm looking forward to continuing the dialogue with you and continuing the relationship with you. So here we are with the Cerro Caliche project in Mexico, and we'll talk about the project itself, we'll talk about the political situation in Mexico, and we'll talk about the prospects for the future. So hopefully we'll be able to get questions from you at the end of the session. Now, for the moment, of course, the forward-looking statements will reign supreme, and they're pretty standard. We've discussed those before, but I want to urge you to take a look at them in closer detail as we go through. Our team has been operating in Mexico now for as long as 50 years. And starting off with Jorge Diaz, Vice Chairman and VP Operations. He's been involved in the design, construction, and operation of 12 gold mines in Mexico over these 50 years. And so when it comes to hands-on building of gold mines, Jorge's the guy to go to. And so we're very, very thrilled to have him spearheading our efforts to get into production at Cerro Caliche. Then the other gentleman down near the bottom, Melvin Herdrick, VP Exploration. Mel's been developing gold mines and developing resources in Mexico and the United States for about 45, 50 years. And he's got as much as over 5 million ounces of gold discovery to his credit over these years. And then we have John Darch, and I'll have John explain his own background. John?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. By way of background in financing in the UK and in Canada, and then I started a small group of companies. Some of them were quite successful. Asia Pacific Resources, substantial potash project in Thailand, crew development. We had operations around the world, geothermal projects with Ken. And I joined Sonoro Gold in late 2018. So my role in the company is more on the corporate structure, the financing and business plans.
Thanks, John. My own background, mechanical engineer to begin with, but I've been involved in the resource sector since the early 1980s. I involved in oil and gas initially, then into mining, into geothermal energy, and back into mining again. And so some of the companies that we have been involved with have done extremely well. An oil and gas company moved on from what was then the Vancouver Stock Exchange onto the New York Stock Exchange. We had a very successful outcome to a geothermal company. John and I set off in 2001, and it was taken over in 2009. I set up a small company in the Philippines that I owned 100%, developing renewable energy, hydropower, and geothermal. And that got taken over in 2014. But since that time, my sole focus has been on running the operation here at Sonoro, and the Cerro Caliche project being the highlight of the projects we have currently. Oscar Gonzalez is a very, very important member of our team as well. He's been over 20 years in developing gold mines in northern Mexico. A notable one would be the nearby Mercedes mine. He spent a lot of time on that one. So the company itself on the left-hand side of the screen is obviously an exploration development company, and we are poised on the development side now and have been for a couple of years as we await the environmental impact statement to be approved by SEMARNAT, the environmental agency. We fully expected it to be approved as much as 2 years ago, but as you know, for political reasons, that's been on hold. And that cost us dearly, obviously, as far as time and money is concerned, but we see some daylight, and we'll talk about that as we go through the presentation here. Our management team is second to none. Like I mentioned, we've developed as many as 12 gold mines in Mexico over the 50-year period. And the other project that we have, the San Marcial project, is located about 30 kilometers away from Cerro Caliche as a crow flies. But as the road winds, it's more like 80 to 90 kilometers. But it's an exploration stage, ready to be drilled. We know it's highly mineralized as far as gold is concerned. And when the financial conditions are right, we will drill that one as well. Next, let's talk about the political situation. This, of course, has been the elephant in the room for the past couple of years. Ever since President López Obrador came into power 6 years ago, the mining industry has been sort of slightly under siege in Mexico. Now, López Obrador's term as president expires in just a couple of weeks' time, and President Claudia Sheinbaum will become the president at that time on October the 1st. And to assure the market and assure foreign investors that Mexico is not shut to mining companies, she has come out outright and said foreign investors have nothing to worry about in Mexico. And there's been a lot of supporting evidence that she is more pragmatic than President López Obrador. The most important feature for us is that she's from the Morena Party, but the most important element is that the Morena Party is in control of Sonora State. And Sonora is the #1 gold producer in Mexico. In fact, 28%, I believe, of the gold produced in Mexico is mined in Sonora State. The economy of Sonora is reliant on the gold industry for its survival. 25% of the economy is reliant on the mining industry, not just gold, but also copper as well and other metals. When you look at other states such as Zacatecas, 33% of the economy is reliant on gold. And I could list off a whole host of other states as well in Mexico that rely to a significant percentage for their well-being and their economy on the gold sector and the mining sector in general. So the interesting thing is the political party in power in Sonora State is the Morena Party, which is the political party that's in power federally in Mexico City. So we believe that the important element for us is to work closely with our colleagues in the government of Sonora State. And I'll give you a quote here from the Minister of Economy State Government of Sonora. In Sonora, mining is a priority and the central axis of economic activity, emphasizes Margarita Velez, the Minister of the Economy. And she's putting her words into action, and that's been very supportive of our plans to get the environmental approval for the Cerro Caliche project and other projects as well that are crucial to the economy of Sonora State. So we believe that while there's political uncertainty at this point in time, it's only a matter of time before Claudia Sheinbaum is able to exert her influence and be able to have her imprint on the direction of the government of Mexico. And as a result, we believe that whether it's in 3 months' time or 8 months' time, that it will emerge that the government of Mexico will continue to support the mining industry in general and be the open pit mining industry as well. And there is nothing that indicates to me right now that it's a priority for the government to ban open pit mining. And nothing that I've seen in the news over the past while. There's been a great attempt to get through, or not attempt, it's actually undergoing right now, to enact the judicial reform in Mexico that is taking over much of the news in Mexico right now. And the judicial reform, I believe, will be successful, or it has been successful in the lower house. The Morena Party is 1 vote shy in the Senate. So we'll see if that is actually passed in the Senate. So, but I think the proposal for open pit mining has not been tabled yet in the lower house, and in fact may not be tabled at all, but we'll see. Time will tell. And like I said, we only have 3 weeks to go before President López Obrador is the ex-president and Claudia Sheinbaum will become the new president. So we're very optimistic that we will eventually prevail in Mexico. Location-wise, we're in good neighborhood. We've got there's probably around 200 mines in Mexico, gold mines in Mexico. Small, not just in Mexico, no, but I'm talking about Sonora State alone, about 200 mines. Some of them are small, some of them are large. Some of the large ones would be, for example, Colorado. You've got the Mulatos mine, you've got La India, you have up in our area, which is, let me show it on here, up in our area of Cerro Caliche, we're surrounded by either producing or soon to be producing mines. And some of the notables would be, for example, the Santa Gertrudis that is owned by Agnico Eagle. They acquired that from Go Gold in 2017. And now they've been drilling there ever since. And so it's a fairly large resource, but no production decision has been made yet. And that'll be a combination of open pit and underground mining. Next door to us is the Mercedes mine, operated by Bear Creek Mining. That's an underground mine. Similar structure, almost identical structure to what the Cerro Caliche project is situated on, which is Cerro Caliche is the gold star, San Marcial is a blue star. And we effectively are looking at similar kinds of grades at Cerro Caliche and some of the recent drilling that we accomplished. And the difference, of course, is the Bear Creek mine at the Mercedes mine is operating at 350 meters below surface. And we're getting significantly similar grades to what they have at the Mercedes mine, but we're experiencing them near surface within the first 100 meters. And right next door to us is the open pit heap leach mine owned by Gold Group at the Cerro Prieto gold mine. And that one has been operating for about 10 years. Bear Creek Mining, Mercedes Mine, has been operating for about 8 to 10 years as well. And then if we cast the net a little bit wider, obviously there's been significant mines within 100 kilometers of us at Sonora State. So how do we look at the value currently present in the drilling that we've done to date, which is approximately 55,000 meters of drilling so far? And to give you an idea of scale here, the average length of drill hole is 110 meters at a 45-degree dip. So you extrapolate that to represent approximately a true depth of about 70 meters or so. So the idea was when we started drilling at Cerro Caliche, we had a small data room, a database of 12,000 meters that enabled us then to go and start planning a drilling program that has been essentially 100% successful. We have not had any duds. So we've been able to expand that resource from what may have been somewhere in the order of about, I would probably say, let's see, about maybe around 10,000, 50,000 ounces. We've now got 440,000 ounces or so within the pit shells. So it's been a very, very successful drilling program. We produced a preliminary economic assessment in 2023 with Micon operating, signing off on the resource side, and SRK on the resource, Micon on the mining side, and Denim Engineering on the process side. There's been a very, very good team that worked with us in that. And the McClellan Labs in Reno did the metallurgical testing, and it's been effectively tested to pre-feasibility study levels. And so I'm quite confident that the metallurgy will withstand the test of time. The $1,800 gold price was what was used in the PEA for the purpose of the base case scenario. Now, we had a range from $1,600 gold, which still showed a positive outcome as far as cash flow is concerned, all the way to $2,000 gold. And as you can see here at $2,000 gold, the net present value is pre-tax of $116 million US, $77 million post-tax. That's USD. So convert that to Canadian dollars and you're over $110 million Canadian. And the IRR, pre-tax 85%, quite healthy, but the post-tax IRR is extremely healthy at 63%. And that is based upon, like I mentioned, $2,000 gold. That is also based upon the fact that the cutoff grade is 0.2 grams. And so when taking that into account, now that we have gold at $2,500, you can throw these numbers out the window and start using your own calculations as to how much more value is there in the project at this point in time. Now, I can't, since it's not incorporated into the PEA, taking the range of gold price up to $2,500, I can't display that to you at this point in time. We know what the value is, but you can extrapolate that yourselves. $1,800 gold to $2,000 gold, here's an increase. And roughly you can go ahead and do your own calculations to take it up to $2,500 gold. But I assure you that the value is so significant. The project becomes so economically viable at this point in time. It's screaming to be built. So at this point, I'm showing on the table on the right-hand side here, I'm showing you a value of cash cost per ounce of $1,295. Now, I'm very confident that we can actually reduce those cash costs substantially, because when you look at the pit shells as they stand today, I think one of the words that ring in my ears is the project, according to SRK, is under drilled. So even within the pit shells, there are areas that are classified as sterile because the pit shell or the drill spacing can be and will be eventually brought down to a tighter spacing as well. So taking that into account, you put some more drill holes into the pit shell, stands to reason that you'll be able to convert the sterile ground into productive ground. And therefore, what happens then is the strip ratio is reduced and the cash cost per ounce are reduced correspondingly as well. So I'm quite confident in telling you that we do expect to see a significant decrease in cash costs as we continue developing the project. And of course, the resource as it stands today is only on the basis of having drilled less than 30% of the known mineralized zones in the project. So the potential for expansion is very, very significant. And our friends at Red Cloud put together the next few slides here, and of course the net present value versus capex. And I think it's good when we look at the table here and start to extrapolate. Currently we started. The base case scenario was at $1,800 gold. And then you go to $1,900, and then you go to $2,000 gold, and so then you can start to draw your own conclusions. That's when you go up to $2,300, $2,400, $2,500 gold. The net result is that you're looking at a project that is vastly different from what is reflected in the PEA. You're looking at a significantly higher value, and we will be updating the PEA in due course. And but for the moment, we have to live with the fact that I can't talk about projected values at $2,500 yet. And as you can see, the capex, the net present value versus capex increases, the after-tax IRR increases, and that slide is quite illuminating. This one here was put together by Red Cloud on the basis of comparing us with our peers around the world. There's some Australian companies, there's some Canadian companies, some American companies. And as far as the enterprise value versus the resources for developing. And so the enterprise value, of course, is the value of the project, of the company, based upon the market capitalization and taking into account the accounts payable, taking into account any liabilities of the company. That's all deducted from the enterprise value. And so you end up with a certain figure. And then as far as the resource is concerned, it's taken into account that based upon the current gold price, and we're treating all these companies equally as far as gold price is concerned, and then they work out a value per ounce based upon the current gold price. And so we end up in the middle of the spectrum there of the spectrum is in the average is about $35 an ounce of gold equivalent, and we're at $28. And so the project itself is sound as in relation to our peers. Yeah, we have a good solid project, and that doesn't take into account, of course, the capital costs that are associated with building the mine. And I can assure you the capital costs of $15.5 million up front for building the Cerro Caliche mine are unparalleled as far as our peers are concerned. The cost of building this mine is in the low end of the spectrum, and therefore I would imagine that will have a positive impact on the relationship between us and our peers as far as value is concerned. And the next slide gives you the similar situation, but only taking into account the development companies that are operating in Mexico. And as you can see, at $27 an ounce, which is the value that the shareholder, that you as an investor, you as shareholders in the stock market, are placing a value of $27 an ounce on our Cerro Caliche project as it stands today. And obviously our job is to take that $27 an ounce and convert that into cash flow. And we will be doing that over the coming year. And from the time that we actually start get the environmental permit to construct until we're in production, we estimate a maximum of 1 year. So we don't have long to wait, except the uncertainty of the permitting has to be overcome. But we believe we will overcome that over the coming few months. Yeah, and here's a project. I think some of you may be familiar with this slide here, where the areas where you see the maximum amount of drilling, the Japonesa zone, has a good solid. That's really the backbone of the resource as it stands. But the area off to the west, which is the Cabeza Blanca, Guadalupe, and El Colorado, are the sexy parts of the project. This is where we have the high grade zones that enable us to look at this right now and say, if we're delayed in getting the environmental permit for building an open pit mine, if we're delayed in any way, shape, or form, is there a potential for an underground mine? And the answer is staring us in the face, right there in the western sector of these three zones off to the west, and the Buena Suerte, all have high grade zones that have the potential for us to look at and see if we can develop a high grade underground mine in these zones. And eventually, if we have to wait out the political situation, then eventually I believe that Mexico cannot afford to ban open pit mines, period. 8% of the entire economy of Mexico is reliant on mining, and 70% of these mines are open pit. So going to some of the highlights of that western zone that I talked to you, this is a bit like Swiss cheese in a way. I mentioned to you that there are gaps in the pit shells as they stand right now, and these gaps can easily be filled in with additional drilling, and hopefully will be able to enable us to continue with the process of demonstrating length and breadth and depth to these high-grade zones. And let's talk about some of these high-grade zones. At the south end of Colorado here, we have 27.5 meters of 5.3 grams, and an intercept there at the bottom, 50 meters down, it's 46 grams. And these high-grade intercepts continue all the way up as you're going up to the upper end of the Colorado zone, and over the top into the towards the north. They continue to the north into the Guadalupe vein structure. Now, these are all very attractive. And once again, I want to mention they're within 50 meters of surface. And this is a very steep, fairly steep hillside here, where if you were to go underground, you could go almost horizontal. You put your adit in almost in a horizontal manner and start accessing the structure fairly quickly. So what we are going to do over the next few months is look at what needs to be done in order to make the resource bulletproof or an underground mining operation, so that in the event that we do have to go underground for the foreseeable future until the political situation changes, then we will be able to start generating cash flow from the underground resource. Another example of this is taken about 300 meters to 400 meters north of the Colorado zone. And this is a cross section. Let me see if I can go back to the slide here, previous one. This is section BB, and the AA was the Colorado section. This is BB for the Guadalupe. And once again, high grade, continuing over a stretch of over a kilometer actually in length. And once again, very, because of the high grade, we got 19.6 grams, and you would access that with an adit that is either horizontal or very close to horizontal from the side of the mountain as well. So these are all positive factors for us to embrace as we look at alternatives right now while the political situation works itself out. As far as the rest of the cross section is concerned here, you've got over 2 kilometers of parallel vein structures that are trending towards the northwest that are open pit mineable. But within these open pit mineable zones, there are areas where they could be readily mined on an underground basis. And we will study that in great detail over the coming months. Once again, easy to mine because you can go from the side hill into the mineralized zones, the high-grade mineralized zones. So the plan of action right now is to continue with the drilling program once we have definition from the SEMARNAT, the environmental agency. And the plan here, of course, is for about almost 9,000 meters of drilling, which we expect would have a significant impact, a positive impact on the size of the resource, and maybe even on the grades as well, because as we are drilling at Cerro Caliche, we're finding more and more that we're able to pinpoint areas of higher grades than the average. So the average being 0.46 grams of gold equivalent, 0.44 grams of gold. Now in these areas off to the west, the Colorado, Guadalupe, and the Cabeza Blanca structure, and even Buena Suerte, you're approaching 1 gram on average, and probably on a larger scale, you're quite comfortable in saying 0.7, 0.8 grams. So with potential for supporting that over several years. So the goal, like I mentioned, is to expand the resource, and we believe that with only 30% of the resource drilled and assayed to date, and we're showing 440,000 ounces within the pit shells. But SRK have also estimated surrounding the pit shells, but not within drill spacing that they can incorporate into the pit shells yet. They estimate up to another 285,000 ounces. Similar grade to what we have within the pit shells right now, 0.4, 0.43, 0.44. Now, what that needs, of course, is just additional drilling to instead of 100 meters, we do drilling at 35 meters in order to incorporate that into the future pit shells as well. So taking that into account, we have a roadmap for expansion with limited risk to us as shareholders. And then, of course, if we look at the potential for the underground, it's within these same zones as well, because we know where the higher grades are now, and we can pinpoint and focus on these going forward. So to summarize on the project timeline now, so let's assume that the environmental impact statement was approved today. And let me backtrack now to 2022. We submitted the environmental impact statement in May of 2022. And with the full expectation that by the end of 2022, we would be essentially done with the review by SEMRNAT. And so we went through the usual question and answer period, and the final review was conducted by SEMRNAT, and we responded to them in January of 2023. And of course, the rule of law at that time stated, and still to this day, it states that if there's no response by the environmental agency within 45 days, then it's taken as approved. Well, the 45 days expired, and then the environmental agency decided that they were going to go to sleep. And so, of course, it became a political issue at that point. So we were unfortunately caught in a situation over which we had no control, and in which our peers in the mining sector suffered the same fate as well. So we've been sitting there, and I can assure you there are projects in Sonora State right now owned by very high-profile mining companies in Mexico that are waiting for the environmental permit approval as well. So we're not alone. We're not being singled out. But we also have the support of the governor of Sonora State. So we're confident that over time that he will prevail and be able to provide the right feedback for the federal government and be able to support us in getting this project approved. So let's assume that we get the MIA approved, the environmental impact statement approved today. I'm saying here right now that on a conservative basis, we would be pouring the first doré bar within 12 months from this date. And the reason I'm suggesting that is that Jorge Diaz, he's, like I mentioned, he's built 12 gold mines, both underground and open pit, over his tenure. And when they were building La Colorada, from the time they submitted the environmental impact statement, received approval, until they poured the first doré bar, it was 5 months. Now that's record time. And I was not suggesting we're going to build this in 5 months. I'd like to think we could, but I think right now on a conservative basis, 12 months is satisfactory to me. So on that basis, now I'm going to hand you over to John to talk about the share structure. John?
Thank you, Ken. That was a very good review, and it reminded me of a lot of good things, which is that our business plan was sound from day one, which was to go to production as soon as possible. And all the activities that we took place between 2019 through to 2022, had there not been that change in the government's attitude towards mining, we'd be in production by now. And as a result of those delays, it's meant that we've had to issue further shares. And so let's just look at the existing share capital which we show here. Currently 189 million shares outstanding. If you add the warrants to those, it takes up to 239 million. We take into consideration now the new private placement, which is fully subscribed and will close within a week or maybe 10 days. That will take us up to a total of 203 million shares outstanding, and with the warrants it'll go to 267 million shares. But in terms of talking about the shares and the trading, everybody can see the chart. It can be seen that for the last year, we've traded almost 50 million shares in a difficult time. And during that period, we had the beginning at trading around 8 cents, and then time drifted on. We went through a very difficult summer, difficult market, etc., and it fell. But overall, if we look at the high of 8 cents and we look touching the low, the average for the year is about 4.8 million shares. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the company and pull a few things together, which is not always apparent. The project itself is sound. The project could go to production immediately. All the work has been done. And I'd ask you to consider the key people here are 4 individuals, mature, if you want to use that word, versus old, but each with a lot of experience in the mining business. There's Jorge Diaz, the mining engineer, very successful. Mel Herdrick, geologist, who's discovered millions of ounces of gold. And Ken and myself, who've been entrepreneurs and business people involved in successful developments of mines for the last 40 odd years. Ken touched on his ventures. I touched on Asia Pacific, Crew, etc. But we've all been involved separately and jointly in projects. And the key thing is, this time, please remember, these 4 individuals have complementary skills. They are heavily committed into the company. We hold approximately 27% of the shares. My average cost is about 13 cents. I think it's probably the same for others. And as a further demonstration of the commitment that the insiders have made, we currently have loaned the company some $3.4 million. Now, why has that been done? It's been to avoid unnecessary dilution. And it's been done to enable us to maintain property payments, payables, operations, maintain our listings, etc. Because while the mining is stopped in Mexico, the cost of operations continue. So we have elected to put up that funds. Now, in terms of the private placement we're doing now and why we're doing it, we were approached primarily by 3 groups, almost concurrently, who believe in this project, have done enough due diligence into the project, no inside information, and collectively it comes up to about $700,000. Now, in keeping with our tradition, the insiders will also participate. Not to exclude anybody. If our shareholders wanted to be involved, we would always stand back. But I think of the $700,000, the insiders will put up 10%. So part I think I would like to convey to you is this, that when you look at the company and you look at the shares being issued, and there's a sigh of, oh my goodness, more shares being issued. The alternative is for the insiders to continue to provide loans to the company. Now, we're a public company. We have obligations to maintain our listings, and we have respect for each and every one of our shareholders. And so, despite many suggestions to us that we should simply roll the stock back, the answer is no. We are not going to roll the stock back. We're not going to convert our loans into cheap shares. We look to recover our loans from operations and project financing. Had the project gone ahead in 2002, when we had tentative project financing, none of this would have been necessary. The property payments would have been taken care of from revenue, etc. So just to leave my comments as follows up. We're quite unique in the junior sector. Serious senior management with a lot of experience, focused on just this one project. And when we speak to you, we can speak to you with an open face and say, yes, we are heavily involved. Yes, we really believe in this. And we also have been around long enough that if there's any further delay in Mexico, we will always put the shareholders' interest first. So I would probably sort of wrap up here to leave room for some questions, etc. But that is essentially the Sonoro, the only project in which we're involved.
I think it's where they're mentioning, John, as well, that if the warrants were all exercised, and they range in price from 7 cents to 22.5 cents, if they were all exercised, it would bring in almost $6 million into the treasury. So I think it's in our best interest to make sure they do get exercised. We do have a lot of questions showing up here, Nicole.
Yeah, just one further point, if I may mention this, Nicole. There's about $2.4 million that's owed to us by the Mexican government, the VAT payments, or they don't call it VAT there. But we filed applications there, and the first one's being processed, and we would expect over a period of time that we'll recover those funds. So over to the questions.
Thanks,
so Nicole, do you want to rattle off the questions, or how do you want to do it?
The one that you want to start answering, go ahead. If not, I'll read them out to you.
Okay, I'll start off with do you have other minerals in your claims? The answer is just gold and silver. And it's essentially gold dominant, but 95% of the revenue will be coming from gold as far as the PEA is concerned. How large are the total of your claims? The answer is just under 1,400 hectares. Possibility of increasing it over time, but that takes money. And we know there's mineralization surrounding us too. Do you have institutions following? You want to answer that one, John?
We do not have any institutions that you would recognize following us. We are supported by wealthy, proven business people in the mining business and elsewhere, by banks. Several banks support us. We're blessed to have a very strong European following from Germany and Switzerland. Something like 40% of our shareholders are over there in terms of numbers. And we're hoping to make some inroads into Scandinavia. Ken and I will be going to Scandinavia to attend a conference on the 24th and 25th of September. And the reason Scandinavia is important to us is because in our prior ventures with Crew, we have 70% of our shareholders were Scandinavian. And we're hopeful that we can stimulate some of their interest to come in. So a long-winded answer, no institutions, but that doesn't mean to say that we're not working on them. But we're fortunate enough that with the banks we have involved and the wealthy individuals who are prepared to follow their interests, they're almost like institutions.
We have a question of, is the project now owned 100% by Sonoro? Are there any property payments remaining outstanding? As of November the 15th through the 23rd, there are two payments coming due. One is $50,000 for the Rosario concession, which we have committed as insiders to making sure the payment is made. And the balance of the payment on the main Cerro Caliche concession is $250,000 US. And once again, we have made internal commitments to make sure that that payment will be made. In the interim, if the market is strong enough and we secure a financing at a higher price, then by all means it'll be paid out of the financing. But for the moment, the insiders are committed to these payments. Then that Cerro Caliche payment ensures that's the final payment for Cerro Caliche. There's only one final payment after that, and it's for the Rosario payment. Rosario represents about 35-40% of the overall total area for Cerro Caliche, and that payment is for approximately in US dollars, $800,000 to $850,000. And once again, we as insiders are committed to making sure that gets paid. But I would really feel very confident in saying by then should be off and running with a project, and that any kind of payment will be taken out of the financing at that point.
And the point being there, in terms of property payments, yes, they are large, but they will be funded by the insiders by way of loans. There will not be a share dilution for that.
Yeah. Another comment, it all depends. Hi, John, it all depends on the MIA. There is still a lot of dilution. The answer is we're trying to keep that dilution down as much as possible. That's why we're not converting our loans to the company at this point in time, because of the dilution that the shareholders would incur. Now, we do own 27% of the company as it stands, and we'd still like to keep that ratio to owning 27% of the company going forward. So if I feel that is a comfortable ratio and a very important one for the shareholders, because we as insiders are totally committed to making sure the company is successful, and having that degree of interest and ownership in the company ensures that we will maintain that interest in making sure the payments are made.
Okay, we have a couple questions offline here. With the permitting uncertainty in Mexico, would you plan to shift the focus to drilling?
There will be some drilling required in order for us to effectively demonstrate the value of an underground mine. We will need to do some drilling. Now, it's all infill drilling, so it's not there's no sort of risky type of drilling involved at that moment. So all we're doing is we have a high grade pod here, and 50 meters away there's another high grade pod. Why don't put a one or two drill holes in between to make sure that there is continuity in the high grade vein structure between those two, and keep on expanding these high grade pods so that we then have a viable underground potential.
Okay. Do you see the potential for more high grade targets on the property, and where are the best looking targets?
Yeah, it's in these areas that I highlighted earlier in the western sector of Colorado and Cabeza Blanca, Buena Suerte, Guadalupe. They're open to a long strike along the north, to the north, which is the northwest trending vein structures are open to the north, open to the south, open to depth. And I think it stands to reason that the next phase of drilling, we're forecasting an average length of 160 meters versus the previous 110 meters. So we are going to be going deeper. And so it'll eliminate the potential for a greater potential, even if we're successful. It'll eliminate the potential for an underground mine. So yes, there's huge potential within these zones. And in other zones to the north, such as the Rincon zone, where we're getting good grades within 50, 60 meters of surface of up to 1 gram or so, we fully intend to continue to expand upon these high-grade zones. And the area is underlain with rhyolite, and we're finding higher grades for gold and higher grades for silver as well. So we obviously will be drilling additionally in these areas as well.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the incoming government in Mexico?
Well, I think that's the one that it's very topical for all of us. And the answer to that is we believe very strongly that the new government of Sheinbaum will be more pragmatic. We see some of the people, some of the ministers that she is surrounding herself with, and we feel that they have much more complementary backgrounds to business in general and mining industry specifically. And so we believe we can work with these people. And when we hear comments like we're open for dialogue, we're open to consult, we will take full advantage of that. But we're not going to go in alone. We are surrounded by a strong team out of Sonora State, and including the governor himself, Governor Durazo, and his team are going to be working with us on making sure that we have a fair hearing in Mexico City, and we're not going to lose time on that. But as soon as Sheinbaum is president, we're going to start working very, very hard to get this approval done immediately.
Okay, that's perfect. We're just about out of time. Do you folks have any last comments or anything for the audience?
I'd like to make a very quick comment on this private placement, just to make sure there's no misunderstanding that the 3 participants, the primary ones that approached us to make this financing, we believe will add a significant value to the long term of the company. And I want to just remove any doubt that anybody may have out there, is that we, the insiders, are seeking this as an opportunity to enhance our position in the company, take down more shares. We're quite happy to either take a nominal position in this financing just to show our commitment, or if other parties want to be shareholders, we're happy to stand back. This is a company for all shareholders, not just the insiders. And I'd like to think that it's easy to say, well, there should be no more financings. Then the question is, who pays for the operations and who pays for the property payments? Should the insiders continue to provide loans, or would other people like to provide loans to the company to do that? So I think as a public company, we're here doing our best, and we're proud of what we've achieved. And I think the record shows there's been an incredible achievement in these years. Despite all the negatives, we're here and ready to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ken and John, for joining us on the webinar today, and to everybody who submitted their questions and watched live. And thank you to everyone who's watching this on the replay. So we're out of time for today. Again, thank you all for joining us. Just a reminder to everybody that replays are available on our website after we're done here. So just take a look at our social media and at redcloudfs.com. We also have our full webinar schedule posted, and we have our upcoming in-person conference, the Fall Mining Showcase, which is happening in Toronto on October 16th and 17th. So more details to follow. Please check out our social for more. And that's it. We'll see everyone next time.
Thank you, Nicole. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. I look forward to receiving your comments by email or by WhatsApp. And let's stay in touch.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Nicole, and everybody for attending. And we welcome any questions anytime, and any follow-up one-on-one calls. Very happy to do that.